Back at it again. No one? Come on. All right, fine. Whatever. He didn't catch it. Anyway, so this is getting the value of like the search field, right? When I click on like search. So here is our URL, right? So we've got our omdapi.com, t equals keyword. So I'm just going to go to that website real quick just to kind of show you what we're working with here. So let's go like this. Let's pull it up, and then let's add in Ant-Man. Bam. And so literally, all I need to do is add in Ant-Man there, and it gives me all of Ant-Man's information, right? And so this is all the information that OMDB allows us to see given this API call. So we've got our title, our year, all the other good stuff, right? So that's it. That's all I'm doing right there is really, literally going to that URL and saying, get this information for me, right? So let's head back to the code here. So that's what our URL is doing. So then we're using this $.ajax here. And so literally all we're doing is we're passing in that URL. So I could get rid of this line and literally add the URL here if I wanted to. I'm just kind of keeping it separate just for sort of readability. So I'm passing in that URL. And then, not surprisingly, I'm telling you what kind of request I want, right? So here's a get. If you guys wanted to do a post request, that would be post instead. Simple as that. And then lastly, it's telling you what kind of data we're working with, right? So in this case, as I said before, I'm afraid of XML, so we're using JSON. What's up?
Is that default to XML if you don't put that in?
I don't know. No, I don't think so, because this is jQuery, so I think it would default. I think you need it in there, but it just wouldn't know. I don't think there is a default. I think you just need to tell it what kind of data type it is. Yeah, that's a fair question though. Yeah.
So when we're doing like trying to fetch an API, typically it would be a get, right? Because get means that it's going to be the information. Yep. So more than likely we wouldn't be posting. Because post means that we're actually literally like displaying something.
Yep, absolutely. So in this case, we're going to be working with an external API, which more often than not is not something that you will be able to post to. So this will be a GET request. We're going to go through how to do like post, input, and delete as well, in case, if you guys ever build your own APIs, you guys, can work through your backend in Rails or something, like you guys can kind of work with that. But in this case, like we probably cannot post anything to OMDB. They probably have it where it's all restricted except for GET. Yeah, it's a good question. All right, so what do you think is going to happen here? Like, is anything going to work? Am I going to get anything out of this? So I'm telling you to go to that URL, right? And I'm telling it I want to get something, and I'm even telling what kind of data it is. But do you see anything wrong with this? Yeah.
You don't have any code written out yet to actually show the data that you're getting on the web page.
Yeah, I'm literally not even telling you what to do at all, right? All I'm saying is get the data. I have nothing else. So if I like save this, and let's open it up now. All right, I'm gonna pull up the console here. If I search for Ant-Man and hit search, it's just gonna tell me clicked, and that's it, right? Like nothing's really gonna happen here because I literally haven't told it to do anything else. Cool, so let's go back. So an Ajax call isn't finished after this point. After you kind of write out what you want from it, you then have to, again, as I just said, tell it what you want to do with it, right? So Ajax requires what we call promises. Promises are exactly that. It's pretty much saying, given a certain result, do something with it, right? So in this case, we're going to add in 3 promises, okay? So we've got our .done, right? So I'm literally going to add this in here. Got .done. I'm going to add it right at the end of this data, at the end of this parenthesis, okay? So .done. What do you guys think that does?
When it's done, you want it to console log the response, whatever it is that it gives back to you.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty semantic right there. So .done is saying like when this request is finished, console log the response.
Is that done a method with Ajax, or what
Yep.
exactly is that?
Yep, it's a promise method that comes from Ajax. Yeah. And so .done is saying like if the request is successful and it's finished, do this, console log the response. All right. So if we have something that's saying if it's successful and done, do something, what would be the natural next step? Yeah. Exactly. Yep. If it's not successful. So we're going to add that in. So that would be our dot fail. So literally saying if it fails, just tell us it failed, right? And then it's our job to go figure out why it failed. Oops. Cool. Yeah.
It seems like a confusing way to like assign the call to a variable and then check if it's like empty or not type thing. I don't know. Just with all the function callbacks and all that stuff. I don't know, maybe that's like JavaScript.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of JavaScript being JavaScript in that case. But yeah, so basically you need to tell it. So it's like you're saying this is done, right? But once you're telling it's done, you need to then still tell it what you want to do with it, right? So you have to pass in this response to actually pass in an argument here. And then once you pass it in, then it's saying, all right, I want to console log it. So it kind of makes sense, right? So it's saying like, check to see if it's done. Once you check that and you know it's true, then do all this instead. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. What?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go for it, Mohammed.
Does dot also check if it's successful?
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yep. I think you can actually use dot success instead, maybe, but I use dot done. You have a question as well?
And it could be from my ignorance with JavaScript, but when I'm looking at it and I see response is the name of the function, and then it says console log response.
So response isn't the name of the function. Response is response is our parameter. That's what we're passing into the function.
Right. So automatically when I see it, I'm thinking like, well, how does it know? How does it know that the parameter is the output of done? Like, how does it know that you're console logging?
Well, so this part here is essentially is like giving us the response,
Right.
and we're passing in the data that we get from it. Here, we're passing that in here.
But we don't have response up there anywhere.
Right. So what it's saying here is it's literally like dot done is saying take everything here and then pass it into this response here.
Okay.
It's doing like the nice part. It's doing it for us, right? We don't have to like create any variable there or anything like that. It's literally doing it all for us.
Can response be something else or it has to be response?
I think it'd be anything else, but again, like convention says, just leave it as response. You could probably put res instead. Some people will put res instead of response.
So the method for done automatically assumes that in that parentheses there will be a function and that parameter is calling whatever it is.
It's calling the data that you try to ask for.
Okay.
Yep. Ryan, you have a question?
Yeah, so it looks like we're using Ajax to interface with the API. Do you have to use Ajax, or are there other methods?
I mean, you could do it server side too. So like, I know a couple people use like APIs in their Rails projects, and so that's doing it all on the server side. You create a model, and then there's like a gem called HTT party that allows you to do it all on the back end and pull it out, and then eventually render it on the front end, right? But this allows you to do it again, sort of more dynamically. It allows for, most importantly, I think one of the biggest things is like expense and size of your application, right? So if you don't need a back end, right, you can do all this on the front end, right? So like think about GitHub Pages, right? You can't deploy something to GitHub Pages that has a Rails backend. You could do this instead that gets data from elsewhere, and you make an application that uses that API and then deploy it to GitHub Pages. But if you tried using HTTP party and do it in your server side, you wouldn't be able to do it. So it's mostly an expense thing. Yeah. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and save this and run it again. So where are we here? I'm going to search for Ant-Man. Nope, Ant-Man. Search. Cool. Look at that. We console logged something. So let's go ahead and open this object up. And not surprisingly, it looks an awful lot like this. Pretty much the exact same thing, just now it's in our console. And we know from our JavaScript days, because we're all pros still, when you console log something you're in here, right, that also means we can do other stuff to it and access it, right? So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I commented this out, but actually I'm going to add in one more promise first before we keep going. So this promise, as you see, that worked, and we're fine there. So the next promise isn't necessary, obviously, given that I just forgot about it. But I try to add it in as much as possible. There's this dot always, right? And this is mostly just saying, like, at any point in time, regardless of success or failure, give me a console log. I do it just like to be safe, It's, again, clearly not necessary since we just got it to work anyway. But I'm going to add it in regardless. Cool. All right, so I'm going to uncomment this append movie here, right? And we're going to go ahead and add in a console log here just to make sure it's actually working. All right, so console log append movie. Cool. So let's do this one more time. Refresh. I'm going to search for Ant-Man. Search. Cool. So you'll see here we've got our object. We've got the append movie, so we tried to call that append movie function, right? And then we've got the something happens, which is coming from our dot always, right? So at any point in time, the dot always will always work. Yeah. But now we're trying to do this append movie. So let's finish up this app real quick. So I'm going to uncomment these because I forgot to delete them. And we're just going to kind of run through what this means, right? So this is literally just working with any JavaScript object, right? So we're passing in our response to our append movie here, right? Passing it in, and then that response, as we already saw in the console log, is just a regular JavaScript object, basically, right? So how do we access something in our JavaScript object? If our object is called response, and we want to access the title, what do we do?
Object name dot title.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing the exact same thing in our little append movie function here, right? So we're appending a paragraph with response.title. And we're doing the exact same thing again. We're appending an image with response.poster, right? So let's make sure it's saved, and let's try this one more time. Ant-Man. Bam. Eventually. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we built a really simple movie app. Simple as that. Any questions? Yeah.
So why not use the get JSON instead of Ajax?
So you can use it either way, right? You can do both. The Ajax is kind of just, to me, a little bit easier, and then you can also just change up if it were like a post request instead of a get request or something like that. You don't have to rewrite the entire function, really. But they are pretty much the same thing. Yeah. That's not it. Cool. Any questions? Any other questions? No? All right, cool. Then I'm going to let you guys do some work now. So if you guys need me to reslack the lesson plan, I can. But basically, I'll slack out the tuner repo. So you're going to be using this tuner repo. And where are you guys? Classroom 6, right? Yeah. Cool. So we're going to spend 20 minutes. The instructions are pretty laid out here. So we're just going to do the get request, all right? So we're just doing a get request here. We're not going to move on to post or put yet. I'll go through that in a little bit. But so we're just going to do the get request. So basically follow the instructions here. And then, so right now, we have it where we're just console logging your response eventually. So if you guys kind of get through all this after you sort of set it all up, you get through it all, then try to actually render all of your artists on the page. Real quick, you'll see here there's like a setting up a view to test Ajax. Basically, we're just setting up a new route, like kind of going away from the /artist and all that stuff. We're just setting this up as if it were sort of like its own route, so you can play around with it on the client side. Sound good? So I'm going to put up 20 minutes here, and I will be around for questions. Also, sorry, I should mention, if you guys finish early, again, towards the bottom, there's a lot of bonuses here. Specifically for this one, if you guys do finish quickly, finish early, we have the movie search bonus. So if you want to go back and rebuild that movie search, you can. And then there's kind of an additional question there that lets you, if you search for Star Wars, something different happens. And I'll let you guys kind of figure it out. But I would strongly recommend really working through this tuner get request first and trying to make sure you understand each step of the process before jumping into the movie stuff.